even though everybody knows the center's under construction and all that, I don't think people know how long you've been working on this and how long this has been an idea, and it's a long time. So, and you're great at explaining how long it takes to do these things. So why don't you just kind of start there?
Sure. Actually, the term of this forum, Urban ReThink, is so relevant to this project. We are an urban project, and we've actually had to rethink a dozen times of how to stay the course and implement what we set out to do in a different way to get to the place we needed to get to. And I think that's one testament to the board of directors, and actually, inside our little beltway, which is the people that are actually sitting in this room, the push to do this right has never wavered. Although there's a lot of pressure to do it differently to get it done, from a buildings perspective, the real effort has always been, how do you create an institution that happens to have a building around it? And our board of directors that started this in 2002-03 time frame has always stayed the course to the vision and the purpose of the institution. Everything else follows that, including the building. And art centers do take a very long time to build. They're very emotional projects. I don't know if you can imagine how emotional they are, but it's not unique to Orlando. I think that we all need to feel very proud. I was, of course, the eternal optimist in 2002 and 3 when I actually started working on this, where I had the chance to go and talk to other mayors and other art center CEOs with Mayor Dyer and our chairman, Jim Pugh. And what Jim Pugh wanted to do is, we knew that it was hard, and he's a developer, and so his first gut feeling was to go find one that worked, basically rip it off, and then bring it here and just put it in Orlando, as a developer would. He actually Right, he actually asked for, he did. He actually asked for the construction drawings for the New Jersey Performing Arts Center. And they said, no, it's not going to work. But, the reason why they're emotional and they take so long is because there's a moment in time where a community can align itself to be able to pull in the same direction as a partnership to do something that is so community-driven. This is a community-driven performing arts center with great respect to universities, with great respect to a convention center that has performance halls. They have a very dedicated direction, and it aligns itself with the institutions that's already established their mission. We are creating an institution here that happens to have a building. And so to align all the funding sources, and they have to come, you want the funding to come from many different places because you build advocacy, you build audience, and the most important thing is you start having people understand that at this moment in time, we are building an institution that's going to be here for 200 years. Again, it has nothing to do about the building. With great admiration for the building, it has to do with the program within the building. And so in 2002 and 3, Mayor Dyer and Jim Pugh set out to do a performing arts center that was going to be for everybody. And performing arts centers have had the tendency to, in the 60s, they began to be built as monuments. You walked up to the arts, they were these wonderful solid stone structures with smaller doors that special people got to walk into. Most people didn't grow up with the arts any longer, and so they didn't feel comfortable. There's a different vocabulary. People wore very nice clothes. Who get to go in that? I don't get to go in that door. Am I allowed to go in that door? The vocabulary is completely different. They didn't know what proscenium was. Are you allowed to clap? I just don't know. I'm not going, right? And there were separate doors to every different venue. So when you go to Lincoln Center, Kennedy Center, the LA Music Center, the Arts Center, the mass of humanity comes to a place and then they divide and they go into special doors, which doesn't lend itself to be a place for everybody. And that was the real motivator for Jim and for myself to jump into the project. And the mayor is, how do you change the elitism behind the performing arts? That's always been the motivator for us to actually attract our executive committee, and then eventually our board. And then it's driven everything we've done. And to Craig's, he said he's only been involved as the board member, but he's actually led probably the most important portion of the project, which is our public outdoor space. So it's so important. Lincoln Center just invested about $1.3 billion to make their Performing Arts Center more friendly, and it all started with their public plaza. So we actually started with public plaza.
If we started in 2002 as a formal effort, how long did we exist before? Because this went back, honestly, to Mayor Frederick in some iteration,
so, right? The average time to build a Performing Arts Center community is is right around 24 years.
That's depressing.
It is very hard. So Mayor Frederick, actually, what he did is he had an idea saying great cities have to have culture. And so he had a concept to do Arts United, and that ended up becoming United Arts. And at that time, he started visioning where could our Performing Arts Center be, and that was right across the street from City Hall. Then when Mayor Hood jumped in, she really had the foresight to start consolidating the land. And it was actually it was a tough consolidation because there was a church on the property, and that was a dynamic that, again, the community wasn't quite ready. It wasn't because the idea to do it and where to do it was not. It was totally correct. We didn't have the alignment yet for the philanthropy. When we started the project, I'll never forget, we had a blend of the other efforts and our idea, and they said, you were never, ever going to raise more than $60 million for this project, ever. And, 6 years before we opened, we'd already raised $60 million, and about 2007, 2008, we had raised $80 million, and again, no one knew what the building looked like, and that was something that was intentful for us. So it does take a great deal of time to do it, just because the alignment of all the partners and the elected officials are very, very key in the timing for which they're involved.
Right. So one of the points you've heard me say this about cities, and so one of the parallels between city building and urban planning and the way we think about the Arts Center is, so the danger is when you travel around the country and you visit someplace that you think is great, and that might be New York City or that might be Portland or wherever, the mistake that you always make is you sort of act like it got built in a day. You just get plopped down in the middle of that city and you're like, oh my gosh, the Pearl District in Portland is amazing, let's go build that. As if it didn't take 20 years to build that, and it probably took longer to plan it and everything. And so there's this disconnect in the arts world, same thing. You go and you see, Kathy referenced New Jersey, what everybody calls NJPAC. So you get dropped in the middle of Newark, which is a less than ideal downtown, and they have developed a beautiful performing arts center that's tremendously successful, and great design. That ended up being the same architect that we use. And so I go there the first time. We hopped off the bus, start walking out with everybody. I thought the same thing Jim Pugh said. I said, we can knock this out in a year or two. Just go build it, just get it designed. This is great. How can this be that complicated? So then you start talking to their folks about how it happens, and it ends up being these contextual stories of 10, 15, 20 years that they had to go back, and how do you raise the money, and 9/11 happens, all this stuff. So there's a backstory everywhere. So just always remember that. It's never as easy as it looks on the one-page glossy when they're sending out. So we've had to learn that as a board, and it's been sometimes a bumpy ride because typically people that are wealthy are impatient. I've learned this over the years. And so there is just this relationship between that, and you have to explain sort of how that goes. And that's one of Kathy's sort of daily struggles, is we have to set sort of expectations, I think, at some level. So now that we're mostly over that hump, just give us an update sort of on where we are. We sit sort of here today with a major portion of the building under construction, and when are we going to be done? When are we going to... We're going to be open quicker than you, or at least it seems to me, quicker than you. Yeah, it makes us nervous. So sort of where are we in that regard?
So in 2007, when the funding came in with Orange County and the city of Orlando, we walked out of the county commission meeting and we looked at each other and we said, uh-oh. Now we actually have to do it. We were so focused on trying to get it going. Now we have to do it. So this is where we are. There's a lot of people in the room that a lot of people in this room have actually worked on our project, either as a volunteer or as one of our team members. The Balfour, HKS, our design team, Balfour Beatty, PCL, the Heinz Company, have all been really pushing the project forward. We've had so many curveballs on this project. It's a miracle that we've actually been able to stay the course, even with their construction schedule. So where we are now, A portion of the building is actually going to be open, not for public use, it's just for us to get prepared, in late next spring. And then we actually, the building will be turned over in the summer, and then we'll tune the building, get into the building, and then we're actually going to open in the fall of 2014, which is 15 months from now, 15, 16 months from now.
That's
Thank
scary.
you. It is scary.